In 1971, my father passed away. I was only 2 years old at that time. Since I was still a child, my family rarely mentioned him to me. All I knew was that he was a kind man. Growing up in an environment that lacked a father's love was not easy for me. While growing up, I often missed my father. Whenever I was in trouble, I longed for my father's guidance and support. My life seemed to be going well, but in reality I was deeply dissatisfied with the way I was living. I had been trying to be kind to the other people around me, but my life still sucked. This made me feel like a complete failure and I was in deep despair and depression. During that time, my heart was filled with pain. I prayed to God to be freed from the pain. After 3 years of marriage, my wife and I separated, which further increased my sense of despair. I had no control over anything and everything became meaningless. During that time, I stayed at a friend's house. I stopped eating regularly and I locked myself in my room all day. I lost all interest and motivation in life. That day, I was about to go to the kitchen to get a glass of water. As I entered the kitchen, my vision began to blur and I felt the air around me become heavy. As I picked up the glass, I felt the whole room spin. I fainted on the kitchen floor. My head began to hurt intensely and it felt like a heavy rock was pressing against my head. I tried to get back up, but my body had no more strength. Finally, I felt like I was slowly leaving this world. Suddenly, my view came up to the ceiling. I could see myself lying on the floor. My view was wide and clear, and my body was lying quietly on the floor, without the slightest movement. My body was like an abandoned stone. It had lost the state I once knew. I realized that this was what it really looked like. I didn't connect with it emotionally when I looked at it. I felt myself transcend the bonds of the physical world. I was now free of the bonds of my body. And I felt free and pure. Suddenly, a darkness enveloped me. Just then, a bright light penetrated the darkness. The light gradually gathered into a female figure. She appeared before me like an angel, emanating an aura of peace and tranquility. She gazed at me with loving eyes. Her voice was very gentle. She seemed to know my inner pain and confusion and was willing to listen to what I had to say. Her presence gave me courage and strength, making me feel less alone and helpless. I knew that this female figure was the Virgin Mary. Her presence not only relieved my inner pain, but also purified my heart. In her company, I reviewed my past life. She helped me to re-experience and understand the experiences that had caused me pain. I saw the loneliness and frustration I had often experienced. The Blessed Virgin Mary did not leave me in sorrow. Instead, she encouraged me to learn from it and to transform that pain into inner strength and opportunities for growth. She showed me the effects and consequences of my past actions. With her selfless love and wisdom, the Blessed Virgin Mary guided me to re-examine my way of life. The Blessed Virgin Mary led me into a sacred space. There, time no longer mattered. This space was filled with divine energy and gave me an overwhelming sense of relaxation and peace. I arrived in front of a huge archway that was magnificent. The arch seemed to connect the passage between earth and heaven. It seemed to be sending me an invitation. Suddenly, a bell rang out, and it was so melodious. Its sound echoed throughout the space. Then, I heard the beautiful singing of the angels. Their voices were very pure. The songs were filled with blessings and joy. They welcomed my arrival. As I heard these beautiful voices, I was filled with doubts inside. Is this all for me? Do I deserve this kind of treatment? I am just a very ordinary person, from an ordinary family with an ordinary education. I have no special achievements or contributions. Do these solemn courtesies really belong to me? These questions filled my heart. And I felt how small I was. The Blessed Virgin Mary seemed to sense my doubts. She told me that heaven does not measure a person's past achievements. Here, every soul is equal. Every soul is irreplaceable. No matter what your past is, you are worthy to be accepted. Here, I also met Jesus. He did not take the specific form we are familiar with, but I was able to perceive his presence. He radiated an endless light that was filled with compassion and wisdom. I could feel his unconditional love, which surpassed any human emotion that could be experienced. The light of Jesus wraps around me and warms my soul. He does not need words to communicate with me. There is a spiritual communication between us that transcends words. I could feel his love as he drew near to me, a feeling I cannot describe in exact words. He asked me, "Do you really want to die like this?" My heart became very complicated. I knew that in front of him, there was no way for me to lie. I also didn't know how I should answer him. I didn't have the courage to say an affirmative answer because I wasn't sure if I really wanted to give up my life. I wanted help and guidance. I said to Jesus, "Lord, I am not sure." I felt great pain and despair inside. Please lead me, give me wisdom and courage, and help me to find true life. My answer was not perfect, but it was my truest thought. Jesus knows the pain and confusion in my heart. In this moment, he showed me two different kinds of my life and helped me see the possibilities of the future. In the first scene, I saw myself surrounded by darkness and I appeared in an abandoned city. I am standing alone on a deserted street. The walls of the buildings were covered with faded paint. Disappointment and despair filled my heart, and a look of helplessness spread across my face. I tried to walk forward, but every step was heavy and difficult, as if a stone was pressing down on me. I felt the power of self-destruction, which relentlessly bound me in the darkness. Next, I saw a second scene. I saw myself appearing in a garden. The sun was pouring down on me, giving me warmth and vitality. I was standing on a patch of grass with flowers emitting an enchanting fragrance. I felt inner peace and joy, and a smile spread across my face. Surrounded by the laughter and cheers of people who care for and support each other, I take confident and light steps. Jesus asked me which kind of life you want. I answered, "The second one." He whispered, "My child, you have made a wise choice. I cannot interfere directly with human behavior, but I will guide you to the true life. You need to find inner peace. I will give you the strength and courage to face the challenges of life." Jesus paused, then continued, "Above all, believe that you are worthy. Don't measure your worth by external standards." I listened carefully to Jesus' guidance. I answered Jesus reverently, "Lord, I will listen to your guidance, try to find inner peace, and influence others with love. I will believe in my own values and start a new life." Jesus said to me, "My child, you have taken an important step. I will walk with you until you find a truly meaningful life. Be assured that my love will always be with you." I felt hope and courage inside because I knew that with Jesus by my side, would be on a path full of light. I know that it is time to get out of here. Jesus wrapped me in his light and I felt an overwhelmingly gentle power. We slowly passed through the huge archway, and the scene before me was fading away. When I re-entered the earth, I found myself lying on a soft bed. The sun was shining through the window and the warmth filled the air. I felt my body filled with strength and my mind became clear. Beside the bed, the Blessed Virgin Mary sat quietly, her eyes full of care. I looked at her gratefully, knowing that she was always watching over me. Jesus stood on the other side of the room, his gaze revealing his endless love for me. He whispered, "You have returned from heaven with hope and a mission. Now you have the opportunity to reshape your life." I took a deep breath and felt the determination and resolve within me. I knew that my experience in heaven had given me a new perspective and strength. And I was going to use it to change myself and those around me. Suddenly, my friend walked into the room. In that very moment, Jesus and the Virgin Mary disappeared in front of me, and their presence seemed like a mere dream. My friend told me that he came back and found me lying on the kitchen floor, so he helped me to the bed. He asked me if I needed to be taken to the hospital. I shook my head gently. I told him that I felt fine now. I explained that although something unusual had just happened, I was back to normal. I felt a sense of inner peace and no discomfort whatsoever. My friend gazed at me as if she could not believe my statement. Although Jesus and the Virgin Mary had disappeared, their blessings were still in my heart. I was now feeling very hungry because I had not eaten properly for many days. I decided to go to the supermarket to buy food. As I pushed open the door to my room, I felt the warmth of the sun, which gave me an energy that I had not felt for a long time. I then realized that I hadn't left my room for 2 months. After returning from the supermarket, I started preparing dinner. A tantalizing aroma was bubbling in the pan. Finishing the last dish, I set them on the table. My friend and I sat around the table, enjoying the food and chatting at the same time. I decided that from now on, I would face life positively and find more joy and meaning. The difficulties during this time are only temporary, and I believe I have the ability to overcome them and meet the challenges ahead. I also expressed my gratitude to my friend.